Let's look at some special situations that can arise when we solve quadratic equations by completing the square. In this example, we're going to have to rearrange some terms and deal with the fact that b is odd. Here's our beginning equation. X squared plus 3 equals 7x. And we want to use the steps we've seen before to solve this by completing the square. But first, the order of the terms is an issue. It doesn't look like ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0, and our steps were based on that sequence. So we can rearrange the terms. We'll move that 7x that's on the right-hand side as positive 7x over here to the left and put it in descending order. So now we have x squared minus 7x plus 3 equals 0. That looks like ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0, and that's where our steps begin. Step 1, make sure the coefficient in front of x squared, the a value, is positive 1. If it isn't, we have to divide everything by whatever that coefficient is to force it to be positive 1. Well, we're in great shape here. It already is positive 1. We can move on to step 2. Rearrange so that the ax squared plus bx terms are alone on one side. We'll move this constant value, or free number, plus 3 over to the right by subtracting 3 from both sides. That's what we need. And again, leaving some space because we know we're going to have to fill in with some numbers. Step 3, we'll complete the square on one side and balance on the other. And here's where it gets interesting. The coefficient of our middle term is negative 7, and that is an odd number. We know we're going to have to divide this by 2, and you can already tell the result is not going to be an integer. It will be a fraction or a decimal. We're going to stick with fractions in this example. So, negative 7 divided by 2 is the fraction negative 7 halves. And when we square negative 7 halves, we get positive 49 over 4. That's the number, and it's a fraction that we will have to add to both sides. And we do it right here. I'll go ahead and complete the square on the left first, turning that into a binomial square. It's not that bad when you remember that the second term is always going to be what we got when we divided by 2. So negative 7 divided by 2 is negative 7 halves. That's what's going to go on that left-hand side. So it's x minus 7 halves, that whole quantity squared. The right-hand side, we've got negative 3 plus 49 over 4. We've got to get a common denominator. This negative 3 has got to become a fraction over 4. So it becomes negative 12 over 4. Now we can add with like denominators, and the right-hand side turns into 37 over 4. So we've finished a long process on step 3, completing the square on one side and balancing on the other. We're ready for the fourth step, which is to take the square root of both sides. The left side is just going to become x minus 7 halves. The right side, the square root of 37 over 2, and it will have a plus or minus in front of that. Again, 4 is a perfect square. There's no perfect squares that go into the square root of 37. Well, we're going to add 7 halves to both sides to get x by itself, and we've got our solutions. X equals 7 halves plus or minus the square root of 37 over 2.